The night before the last concert. When the stage lights went down, nobody could believe it. The king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley, was actually on stage for the last time that night, but what nobody knew yet was that the real drama was happening backstage. June 26, 1977, Market Square Arena, Indianapolis, 11:47 p.m. When Elvis's dressing room door closed, the roar of 10,000 fans outside vanished instantly. The man in the mirror was familiar but foreign. 42 years old, exhausted, his swollen face covered with makeup, the dark circles under his eyes telling the story of recent years' merciless burden. He touched the mirror. Cold. Just like the corridors of that massive mansion in Graceland. "Great show tonight, Elvis." Colonel Tom Parker walked in, his cigar filling the room with smoke. That familiar smile, that voice always in control. "Tomorrow night in Cincinnati will be even." "Colonel," Elvis's voice was quiet but sharp. "We need to talk." Parker stopped. In 22 years, he'd seen Elvis in every state, angry, happy, broken, victorious. But this tone was different. There was something in his eyes. A decision, maybe, or a final surrender. "Of course, my boy." "What's on your mind?" Elvis pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket, yellow with age, corners worn. "I found this in the Graceland archive last week, between my mama's old letters." His hands trembled as he held it. "You want to tell me what this is, Colonel?" But what he didn't know yet was that this envelope would change everything he believed about his life. 23 years earlier. Memphis, 1954. Gladys Presley was crying that morning, not tears of joy, but worry. Her 19-year-old son had just signed a contract with a man who called himself Colonel Tom Parker. The contract was 73 pages long. Gladys had only read the first page. "Mama, this is my chance," young Elvis had said, his eyes shining with dreams. "Colonel says he'll make me the biggest star in the world. Baby, I just want you to be happy." Gladys had stroked her son's hair. "But this man, something about him doesn't sit right with me." Elvis had laughed back then, youth's laughter, hope's laughter. "Mama, you worry too much. Colonel Parker knows this business. He managed Eddie Arnold, Hank Snow. He'll take care of me." Gladys had wanted to say something more, but held back. How could she tell her son that she'd asked around about this colonel, that people had whispered strange things, that his past was shadowy, that his real name might not even be Tom Parker? She had written down everything she learned. She put it in a yellow envelope. She was going to give it to Elvis someday. But that day never came. In 1958, Gladys Presley died, and that envelope remained hidden among her belongings. Until now. Market Square Arena, 11:52 p.m. That envelope. Parker's face changed for the first time. The mask of control slipped just a bit. "Where did you find that?" "Doesn't matter where I found it, Colonel." Elvis stood up, his body shaking but his voice firm. "What matters is what's inside. My mama, she knew, didn't she? She knew who you really were." Parker took a long drag from his cigar. The smoke filled the space between them. "Elvis, your mother was a wonderful woman, but—" "Andreas Cornelis van Kuyk." Elvis read from the paper inside the envelope. "Born in the Netherlands. Illegal immigrant. You're not even American, are you, Colonel? That's why you never let me tour Europe. That's why you kept me trapped in America all these years." Wait a minute. Don't miss this detail. The room spun. Years of questions, strange decisions, missed opportunities. Everything was starting to make sense now. Why had Parker refused every offer from Europe? Why had the Beatles played all over the world while Elvis was confined to American borders? Why had every movie contract, every record deal gone through Parker's hands first? "You don't understand, Elvis." Parker's voice was quieter now, almost pleading. "Everything I did was to protect you, to make you the biggest prisoner?" Elvis's voice cracked. "I trusted you, Colonel. After Mama died, you were the only one I trusted. And you." He couldn't finish the sentence. Parker put down his cigar. For the first time in 23 years, Elvis saw something real in his manager's eyes. Not control, not calculation, fear maybe, or regret. "That contract you signed in '54, Parker said slowly. "Do you remember what percentage I took?" 25%. Then it went up to 50. Look at page 47, Elvis. Elvis's hands shook as he opened the old contract, his younger self's signature at the bottom, so hopeful, so naive. And there, in small print, in legal jargon he hadn't understood back then. You won't believe this, but 75%. The words barely came out of Elvis's mouth. You've been taking 75% of everything I've earned? Of new deals? Yes. But Elvis, think about what I've built for you. What you've built? Elvis threw the contract on the floor. I'm the one who got on that stage every night. I'm the one who sang until my voice gave out. I'm the one who made movies I hated because you said they'd be good for my career. The door burst open. Red West, Elvis's bodyguard and childhood friend, stepped in. Everything okay, boss? Elvis looked at Red. Good old Red. One of the Memphis Mafia, one of the few people who'd been with him since the beginning. Red, you remember when we talked about firing Colonel 2 years ago? And somehow he found out? Red's face darkened. Yeah, I remember. Who told him, Red? I don't know, Elvis, but Parker's slight smile said otherwise. You always had loyal people around you, Elvis. Some more loyal to you, some more loyal to security. This is where everything changed. 3:17 a.m., Graceland, phone call from Indianapolis. Linda Thompson, Elvis's girlfriend, answered the phone on the second ring. Elvis? Baby, what's wrong? Linda. His voice was broken, tired. I need you to do something for me. Go to my office. In the bottom drawer of the desk, there's a black folder. I need you to look inside and tell me what you see. Linda's heart raced as she walked to Elvis's office. Even Graceland felt different at this hour. The gold records on the walls, the awards, the photos with presidents, all of it felt like a museum of someone else's life. She opened the drawer. The black folder was thick, heavy. Inside were documents, contracts, bank statements. Her hands began to shake as she read. Elvis, these numbers. You should have over $100 million. But these statements show. How much, Linda? Less than $5 million. And most of that is tied up in Graceland and the cars. Elvis closed his eyes. The walls of the hotel room closed in on him. Read me the last document. Linda's voice trembled. It's a life insurance policy made out to Colonel Tom Parker. If something happens to you, he gets everything. Nobody had seen the biggest surprise yet. 4:45 a.m., Indianapolis hotel room. Elvis sat on the edge of the bed, the phone receiver still in his hand, dial tone humming. On the nightstand, a bottle of pills. The doctors had prescribed them for pain, for sleep, for anxiety. There was a pill for everything, but there was no pill for this feeling, this hollow, gutted sensation of realizing your entire life had been a carefully orchestrated performance, and you'd been the only one who didn't know the script. A knock at the door. Go away, Elvis muttered. The knock came again, softer this time. EP, it's me, Charlie Hodge, another Memphis boy, another piece of home. Elvis opened the door. Charlie looked at his friend, the man the world called the king, and saw a broken child. I heard about the colonel, Red told me. Did everybody know except me, Charlie? Nobody knew all of it. We suspected things, but you trusted him, so we... Charlie sat down next to Elvis. What are you going to do? Elvis pulled out another document from the yellow envelope, his mama's handwriting, a letter she'd written but never sent. My dearest Elvis, if you're reading this, I'm probably gone. I need you to know something about Colonel Parker. I hired a private investigator after you signed with him. Baby, he's not who he says he is. He can never leave this country. He's here illegally. That's why he'll never let you tour the world. He'll keep you in a golden cage. I wanted to tell you so many times, but you were so happy, so full of dreams. I couldn't break your heart. But son, one day you'll need to break free. When that day comes, remember, you don't need him. You never did. The talent is yours. The voice is yours. The magic is yours. You are stronger than you think. All my love, Mama. Charlie watched as tears rolled down Elvis's face. She knew. All those years, Mama knew, and she was trying to protect me. It's not too late, EP. You can still break the contract. We can get lawyers. It's not about the money anymore, Charlie. Elvis's voice was hollow. It's about what I've become. Look at me. I'm 42 years old. I can barely get through a show without pills. I've been singing other people's songs in movies I didn't want to make. I've been living in a mansion surrounded by people on Parker's payroll. When was the last time I wrote my own song? When was the last time I made a choice that was actually mine? Hold on. What you're seeing now is nothing. June 27th, 1977, 2 p.m. Elvis called a meeting. In his hotel suite, Red West, Sonny West, Charlie Hodge, and Joe Esposito, the Memphis Mafia, his brothers. I'm firing Parker, Elvis announced. After tonight's show in Cincinnati, I'm done with him. The room fell silent. Elvis, Joe started carefully. The contract. Fuck the contract. It was rare for Elvis to curse. My mama tried to warn me 23 years ago. I didn't listen. But I'm listening now. Red leaned forward. Boss, you know he won't go quietly. Parker's got connections. He's got dirt on everyone. He'll let him try. Elvis's jaw was set. I've spent my whole life being afraid. Afraid of losing my career, afraid of disappointing people, afraid of being alone. You know what I realized last night? I'm already alone. I've been alone for years. At least now I'll be alone on my own terms. Charlie pulled out a legal pad. Okay, we'll need to call Ed Hookstratton. He's the best entertainment lawyer in the country. We'll need to secure your finances, change the locks at Graceland, and Elvis held up his hand. There's something else. I want to do a press conference tomorrow. I'm going to tell the world everything. Everything? Sonny's eyes widened. Everything. The fake name, the illegal immigration, the contracts, the money, all of it. The truth. Joe shook his head. Elvis, think about this. You expose Parker, you expose the whole system, the record labels, the movie studios. Everyone who looked the other way, they'll come after you. I don't care anymore, Joe. Elvis walked to the window, looking out at the city below. Somewhere out there, ordinary people were living ordinary lives, working jobs, raising families, being free. I've been the king for so long, I forgot how to be a man. Maybe it's time the world saw me as just Elvis, just a guy from Tupelo who loved music and made some mistakes. But Elvis didn't know that someone was listening. 2:47 p.m. Hallway outside Elvis's suite. Jerry Schilling, another member of the inner circle, stood frozen outside the door. He'd been about to knock when he heard Elvis's words. His heart raced. His phone felt heavy in his pocket. Jerry had been with Elvis since '64, 13 years. But he'd also been in Colonel Parker's pocket for the last 5. Parker paid him extra, not much, just enough to keep tabs, to report back on Elvis's moods, his plans, his relationships. Jerry had told himself it was for Elvis's own good. The Colonel knew what was best. The Colonel kept Elvis safe. But standing there now, hearing the determination in Elvis's voice, the pain, the desperate need for freedom, Jerry realized he'd been lying to himself. He had a choice to make, and he had about 3 minutes to make it. His hand moved toward his phone. Parker's number was on speed dial. Then he thought of that 19-year-old kid from Memphis he'd met in '64. The kid who'd been so kind to him, who'd given him a job when he needed one, who'd treated him like family. Jerry put the phone away. He knocked on the door. It's Jerry. When Elvis opened the door, Jerry saw something in his eyes. Hope mixed with suspicion. Elvis knew. He'd always known there was someone feeding information to Parker. He just didn't know who. Jerry. Elvis's voice was careful. Come in. Jerry walked in, looked at the faces of the Memphis Mafia, and made his choice. I need to tell you all something. For the past 5 years, I've been reporting to Parker. Everything you've said, everything you've planned, he's known about it. The room exploded. Red lunged forward, but Elvis held him back. Why? Elvis asked simply. Because I was afraid. Afraid if I didn't, I'd lose my place. Afraid I'd end up broke and alone. Jerry's voice cracked. But I'm done being afraid. If you're going to war with Parker, I want to help. I know things. Things about his other clients, his deals, his connections. I can help you bring him down. This is where the real shock begins. Elvis studied Jerry's face for a long moment. Trust was a currency he'd spent too freely in his life. But there was something in Jerry's eyes, genuine remorse, maybe even courage. Okay, Elvis said finally. Tell us everything. June 27th, 1977, 7 p.m., Riverfront Coliseum, Cincinnati. The crowd was already filing in. 17,000 fans, all there to see the king. They'd bought tickets months ago. Some had driven for hours. They wanted to see Elvis Presley, the legend, the icon. They had no idea they were about to witness history. Backstage, Elvis sat in his dressing room, now surrounded by a different energy. His new lawyer, Ed Hookstraten, had arrived with documents. Real documents. The truth laid bare in black and white. "Elvis, if you sign this termination notice, there's no going back," Ed explained. "Parker will fight. He'll sue for breach of contract. It could cost you millions in legal fees." "How many millions do I have left?" Ed glanced at the financial statements. "After we free up the assets Parker's been controlling, maybe 3 million, maybe less." Elvis laughed. It wasn't a bitter laugh. It was liberation. "You know what? That's still more than I started with. In 1954, I had $50 in a dream. I can do it again." A knock at the door. Colonel Tom Parker stood there, looking smaller somehow, older. "Elvis, we need to talk." "No, Colonel, we're done talking." Elvis stood up, handed him the termination papers. "It's over. Our contract is terminated, effective immediately." Parker looked at the papers, then at Elvis. "You're making a mistake. Without me, you're nothing. I made you, boy. No." Elvis's voice was steel. "My mama made me. God gave me this voice, and I made me who I am. You just took the credit and the money." Parker's facade crumbled. For the first time, Elvis saw the real man underneath. Not a powerful manager, just a scared old man about to lose everything. "They'll destroy you," Parker whispered. "The industry. They'll blacklist you. You'll never work again." "Then I won't work. I'll go back to Memphis. I'll drive a truck again if I have to." Elvis moved toward the door. "But I'll be free." What nobody in that room expected was what came next. 8:47 p.m. on stage. The lights went down. The crowd roared. Elvis walked out, that familiar silhouette, that unmistakable presence. But something was different tonight. He didn't go into his usual opening number. Instead, he stood at the microphone, breathing heavily, looking out at 17,000 faces. "I need to tell you all something," he began. His voice echoed through the arena. "I need to tell you the truth." The crowd fell silent. This wasn't part of the show. "For 23 years, I've been managed by a man named Colonel Tom Parker. You all know him. He's been my manager since the beginning. But what you don't know, what I didn't know until a few days ago, is that Colonel Parker isn't even his real name. He's an illegal immigrant who's been stealing from me for decades." Gasps rippled through the audience. Somewhere in the back, reporters scrambled for their notepads. "I'm not telling you this to get sympathy. I'm telling you this because I spent my whole life being somebody I thought I was supposed to be. And I forgot who I really am. I'm just a boy from Tupelo, Mississippi who loved music. That's all I ever wanted to be." His voice broke. 17,000 people sat in absolute silence. "This might be my last concert. I don't know. The lawyers say there's going to be a big legal fight. The colonel might win. He might take everything. But you know what? I don't care anymore. Because tonight, for the first time in years, I'm free. And that's worth more than all the money in the world," he signaled to the band. "So I'm going to sing for you tonight. Not because a contract says I have to, not because a manager tells me to, but because I want to. Because singing is who I am." And nobody knew that this moment would change everything. The band started playing. But it wasn't the usual set list. Elvis sang songs he hadn't sung in years, the old Sun Records tracks, the raw gospel songs his mama used to love, the blues numbers that made him fall in love with music in the first place. He sang for 3 hours, no breaks, no costume changes, just Elvis and his voice and 17,000 witnesses to his resurrection. 11:58 p.m. After the show, Elvis sat in his dressing room, drenched in sweat, exhausted, more alive than he'd felt in years. The phone was ringing off the hook. Reporters wanted statements, lawyers wanted meetings, record labels were already calling with offers. But Elvis ignored all of it. He picked up his own phone and called one number. "Daddy?" Lisa Marie's sleepy voice answered. She was 9 years old. "Hi, baby. Did I wake you?" "It's okay, Daddy. Mommy said you might call." "Lisa, I need to tell you something. Your daddy made some mistakes." A lot of mistakes. And I'm trying to fix them now. It might mean things are going to change. We might not have as much money. We might have to sell some things. That's okay, Daddy, Mommy says. As long as we have each other, we have everything. Elvis's eyes filled with tears. Your mommy's a smart woman. Daddy? Are you crying? Yeah, baby, but they're good tears. Happy tears. Grandma Gladys used to say that happy tears are prayers. Elvis's breath caught. She did, didn't she? Daddy, when are you coming home? Soon, baby. Real soon. And when I do, things are going to be different. Better. I promise. After he hung up, Elvis sat in silence. The yellow envelope was still on the table. His mama's letter. He read it one more time. You are stronger than you think. July 15th, 1977. 3 weeks later. The legal battle with Colonel Parker made headlines for weeks. Every newspaper, every TV station covered it. The story had everything: betrayal, millions of dollars, secrets, lies. But something unexpected happened. Other artists started coming forward, guys Parker had managed before Elvis. They had similar stories: exploitative contracts, hidden percentages, careers controlled and manipulated. The music industry was forced to look at itself. Congress launched an investigation into management practices. New laws were proposed to protect artists. Elvis had sparked a revolution, and he hadn't even tried. He was broke. Well, not broke, but no longer rich. The legal fees ate up most of what he had left. Graceland was mortgaged, the cars were sold, the jewelry, the gifts, the excess, all gone. But he was free. Though the world thought they knew the ending, there was still one more twist. August 15th, 1977, Graceland Elvis sat on the porch of his home, watching the sun set over Memphis. The same Memphis where he'd driven a truck, where he'd recorded That's All Right at Sun Studios, where his mama had raised him in a 2-room house. Jerry Schilling sat next to him. After his confession, Jerry had become Elvis's closest confidant, the one person who knew both sides, who could help navigate what came next. The new lawyer called, Jerry said. Capitol Records wants to offer you a deal. Not a huge advance, but fair terms. Full creative control. You can record whatever you want. Gospel. If that's what you want. Elvis smiled. I want to make the album my mama would have loved. None of that movie soundtrack garbage. Just real music. You know Parker's still fighting the termination in court. Let him fight. He's already lost. They sat in silence for a while, two old friends watching the sky turn purple and orange. EP, can I ask you something? Shoot. That night in Indianapolis, when you found your mama's letter, what made you finally break free? After all those years, why then? Elvis thought about it. You ever feel like you're living someone else's life? Like you've been following a script so long you forgot what your own voice sounds like? Yeah, I guess I have. That night, reading Mama's words, it was like she was giving me permission. Permission to fail, permission to be weak, permission to just be me. He paused. I spent my whole life trying to be the king. Maybe it's time I just be Elvis, but what nobody knew was that this wasn't the end. Epilogue. August 16th, 1977. History remembers that Elvis Presley died on August 16th, 1977 at Graceland. The official cause was a heart attack, complicated by prescription drug use. But there's another version of that day, a version that lives in the memories of the Memphis Mafia, in sealed legal documents, in letters never published. The night of August 15th, Elvis made a phone call. To who? Nobody's entirely sure. Some say it was a reporter he trusted, others say it was a federal prosecutor investigating Parker. A few claim it was somebody from his past, maybe even someone connected to the colonel's shadowy history. What we know is this: Elvis had information, real, damaging information about Parker's illegal activities, about industry corruption, about powerful people who'd looked the other way for decades. And we know that on the morning of August 16th, Elvis Presley was found unresponsive in his bathroom at Graceland. The paramedics who responded noted unusual circumstances. The position of the body. The timeline that didn't quite add up. The fact that his personal physician, Dr. Nick, who was on Parker's payroll, was the first person on the scene. But the investigation was brief. The conclusions were quick. and the world accepted the story of a rock star who'd burned too bright, too fast. Colonel Tom Parker attended the funeral. He cried publicly. He gave interviews about his dear friend Elvis. He retained control of Elvis's estate and continued to profit from the legend for years after. Was it really a heart attack, or was it something darker? The truth is buried with Elvis. But sometimes, late at night, the members of the Memphis Mafia who are still alive share stories. They talk about that yellow envelope, about Gladys's letter, about the phone call Elvis made hours before he died. They talk about how Elvis told them just days before, "If something happens to me, make sure people know the truth." And here's the question nobody wants to ask. Did Elvis Presley die of a broken heart, or did someone break it for him? The truth about that night remains one of music history's greatest mysteries. But one thing is certain, Elvis Presley spent his life in a cage made of gold, and in his final weeks, he'd finally found the key. Whether he lived long enough to use it, that's a question that still haunts Memphis on humid summer nights. Which city are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments below. Now we want to hear from you. Have you ever discovered a truth that shattered everything you believed? What would you have done in Elvis's position? Would you have exposed Colonel Parker immediately or kept quiet to protect what you'd built? Share your thoughts in the comments.